So you're 50 years old, you've worked your whole life, but will you ever be able to have enough cash to retire yourself? In this episode, I'll show you the math and strategy needed to buy affordable multifamily properties that can set you on a 7-year plan to financial freedom without doing all the work yourself. Okay, so you're going to need a calculator for this one. So take your personal living expenses and multiply that number times 150%. The reason for this is that we want to add a buffer to account for living expenses we typically leave out. And we also want to have a cushion because most people, they don't account for haircuts, car repairs or maintenance or gifts throughout the year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if your monthly living expenses were $6,000, take 6,000 times 1.5, that gives you $9,000 per month. This is your financial freedom goal. Now, depending on how you fund each deal, let's say you're okay with a $200 cash flow per unit, in which the cash flow accounts for all expenses, debt service, and reserves being accounted for. So take your financial freedom goal and divide it by 200, again, which represents how much cash flow you get per unit in your portfolio each month. So in the scenario outlined, that would be $9,000 per month divided by 200, which equates to 45. That represents your unit goal. So what does 45 actually mean? Well, you guessed it. It represents how many rental units you need in your portfolio on average. And the key word here is on average. Of course, depending on the market, the area, how you're funding the deal, the price you bought the multifamily property for, etc., the cash flow per unit could be more or less. Now, if you wanted to, let's say, exit the 9 to 5 for the next 7 years, let's divide your unit goal, in that scenario 45, divided by 7, and this shows you how many more units you need to add to your portfolio each and every year. So back to the example, that would be 45 divided by 7, which is roughly 6 to 7 units per year. So let's break this down even further, right? Here's a residential route towards obtaining your financial freedom goal. That will be buying at least a triplex and a quadplex twice a year. Let's say a triplex in March and in September, a quadplex. And you do that same strategy for the next 7 years. Now here's a commercial multifamily strategy. That will simply be buying a 7-unit every single year for the next 7 years. So as you embark on this journey, you may find that even though you're aiming for 45 units to generate $9,000 per month in cash flow, you may only need 32 units because you got better at negotiating, you got better at finding deals, you got better at managing your finances and so forth, how you fund the deal, you pay down debt, you plan to downsize, you might not need 9,000, but you might be okay with 7,000. So it's important to update your financials, your personal financial statement, every time you close on a deal. And you may realize that after you put this thing into motion, you buy a deal once a quarter, then once a month, or every other month for the next 7 years, and you realize you can hit your financial freedom goal in 4 years instead of 7. It just depends on your level of aggression. The key to making this happen is buying deals, multi-unit deals, on repeat. All right, let's get into the real deal. This is a live deal that we have here, and we're gonna break down all the important numbers on it. Check it out. All right, so we're about to get into a real deal. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. If the audio sounds different or horrible, please forgive me. I just want to do the screen share on my laptop, so it may be different from the mic that I was wearing in my sports jacket. So let me go ahead and record it now. Share my screen. Great. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling up one of our proprietary spreadsheets here, in which we go over tons of deals. All right, and I just want to show you a deal here. This is a 9-unit, number of units here. And first thing we do is we apply the 1% rule just to make sure that matches. 1% rule is basically that the gross monthly rent should be 1% or greater than the asking price for the property. Okay, that's how we can do a just eyeball, quick and easy math to see if this deal is worth putting into our deal analyzer that you see here. All right, so with our deal analyzer, before I get into it, let me just share with you some details about the listing. Okay, so here's the property here. All right, let's look at the details. So let me see here. So you see there's not much details in terms of the listing, but of course that's why we like to reach out to the agents to get further clarity, which we did.
Okay, so let me just break down the numbers here. So the purchase price, the seller wants $534,900. We're going to offer $525. Okay, and the total amount of cash needed to close this deal, meaning cash needed at closing for the down payment, property inspections, entity formation fees, appraisal fees, closing costs, all things considered. We like to, do our math up front to see how much the total cost will be out of pocket. That's $140K. So again, this is money that we have to bring to afford the out-of-pocket cost. In other words, the cost that the mortgage won't cover. Monthly cash flow, almost $1,300 a month. Cash on cash return, 11%. Cash flow per unit, 143. Okay, and it could be more just depending on, the mortgage that you receive. If you plan to 100% finance the deal, it just depends on the debt service. Okay, so it's a 9-unit. The monthly rent is $61.20. Okay, but it has the potential of receiving a lot more. You see here $11,460 based upon our front end due diligence. All right, so first thing we like to do is take a look at our operating income, including a 3% vacancy rate, and our GOI, gross operating income, for the month is $59.36. But if we happen to increase the rents to market rate, we can get $11,116. Okay, now we're getting to the operating expenses, so we're going to subtract some fees here, such as property management fees, maintenance reserves, property taxes, insurance, and so forth. So our total monthly expenses, if we happen to close this property tomorrow, will be $1,374. Okay, I'm just not going to mention the cents. However, if we were to acquire this property and we were able to add value, our expenses would increase. Why? Because property management companies typically get paid a percentage of income. Sometimes the taxes do go up when the property is reassessed if you improve value, which is a good thing, right? So the taxes and all those other expenses I just considered, if we happen to do value add, then our operating expenses for the month will increase to $2,437. Okay, and just to give you some clarity about the difference between these two columns, column F, as in Frank, is about the current performance based upon the numbers provided on the listing, and column G represents the added value. As investors, we always want to acquire a property at a discount and then look for ways in which we can add the value very quickly so we can maximize our return. All right, so let's get into the NOI. So NOI is the difference between the gross operating income minus your expenses. So you see it here. As it currently stands, the current performance is around $55,000 for the year, is your yearly totals. And if we happen to do the value add that I mentioned, increasing the rents, the NOI would increase almost double, 104. So this property is severely under rented. And if we're in a desired cap rate of 10%, the property valuation is here, 547. But if we increase the rents, being this is a multifamily deal, the value, of course, the location plays a part, but with multifamily, with commercial mortgages especially, the value is really dependent upon the performance of the property. Okay. All right, so we got our offer price here. I shared out with you earlier. That's how we came with our offer price based upon these metrics. Let's say we have to put a 20% down payment, so the loan to value, meaning how much of the mortgage will cover is 80%. So we see here down payment of $105,000, acquisition costs, soft costs, and closing costs, as I shared earlier, about property inspections, appraisals, forming entities, all that good stuff. And a mortgage, based upon the rates. Now, these rates can vary, based upon when you're watching this video, so obviously if you're doing want to analyze this deal, it's important to know what the rates are currently. Okay. All right, cool. Now let's get down to the debt service. We have it here around $39,000 for the year. So let's get into our ROI and cash flow. So the total annual cash flow, if you happen to buy this property today, we'll be generating annual $15,548. If we're able to do the value add that I mentioned earlier, such as increasing the rents, decreasing some of our costs, we can increase the annual cash flow to $64,944. Okay. The total monthly cash flow before taxes, we have almost $1,300 here. After taxes, it will be for the value add. Before taxes, monthly cash will be $5,412. Okay, so we haven't bought this property today. As it stands, we'll still be making a decent return, 11%. But if we were able to do the value add, we'll increase our return 46%. So that's the goal, right? You want to buy a property that's currently cash flowing, but has potential to improve its cash flow by how we manage it, forcing appreciation. And here's the cash flow per unit. If we happen to buy this property today, the current performance, we'll receive $143 or close to $144 per month in cash flow. But if we were able to buy this property and add the value, we can increase the monthly rents to $601 per month. Okay, so just keep in mind, if you're having to be that person who's inquisitive, like, oh, let me search this up on Zillow. Let me see, search this property and contact the agency that's available so I can get this deal before they do. Just keep in mind that by the time you watch this, you know the video has to be edited and added to the other video that you just saw me on, and also by the time you watch this, who knows if it's still available? So it may or may not be available. But if you're interested in a deal like this or a deal similar to this, we'll tailor fit a solution for you. Find a deal specific to which you can afford. Okay. So all you have to do is just schedule a call. You can just check the link in the description to learn more about that. Now, after we have someone who's interested in the deal, we'll do further front end due diligence. All right. So don't just rely on what Zillow has to say or Trulia has to say or Redfin or any other of these websites, or just take your best guess about what's going on in the market based upon some light research. Again, we do this full time. We're professionals. Okay, this is our bread and butter. This is what we do 9 to 5. As you saw in the other spreadsheet, we have a full big laundry list of deals that we go through. And we have a huge team in terms of deal finders, and we do a ton of market analysis to find the right deal. Now, when you do express interest, we'll do additional front end due diligence on the neighborhood, etc. But for the purpose of this real deal, for now, the focus was deal analysis, not market analysis. But of course, if you happen to work with us, we always do market analysis first before we do deal analysis. So this was mainly designed for educational purposes only. So let's cut back to me. See you on the next side.
Now, if you're like most people I work with, you're not trying to become a full-time landlord. You want results, not a second job. So all we require is that you bring the 3 Ds to the table. The docs needed for mortgage purposes. If you don't have them, that's fine. Just be transparent. The second D is the down payment. This is your out-of-pocket cost. It's pretty much the cost of mortgages and cover, like the down payment, closing costs, property inspections, and so forth. And the third D, and to me, is the most important, determination. Being a team player, open-minded, persistent, and just having that will. And this is how we help. We do all the work, and you keep all the ownership unless we do a partnership. We guarantee results or your money back. Now, don't just take my word for it. Listen to what one of our clients had to say.
With this last deal was definitely different. As you've reiterated in the past, each deal will be different. The situation is definitely unique in the sense of when I did the business credit, with the what was it, Deaver deal, with the package deal, and you had to restructure everything, which that took forever. But we was able to still get things done and closed. But that's just how it goes. The price of doing business, and it's steady. But I was just glad to get the second one to have another stream of income, and so I think everything will pan out. As you said, what you're teaching, I mean, that's just one of those things you got to go with the market. It's gonna be ups, downs. You just got to ride the wave at this point.
So Melvin, did you have any doubts or fears before working with us, and how did you overcome them?
I did have doubts and fears because it's unknown, it's new, uncharted waters. I mean, you talking about and turning. I'm like, how you turn credit into cash? But then, like you said, as I've learned, along with education, the fears, the fear goes down and the confidence level goes up. So during this whole process, Juan, my fears and doubts are they're shrinking, like astronomically, and my confidence is gaining just as well. So I mean, the scale of it is just amazing.
Hey, you weren't meant to slow down. You still have time, money, and purpose. This is about building a legacy and not just making a quick buck. Family and faith are everything, and we don't want you to sacrifice that in the pursuit of real estate investing. In fact, the passive income received from real estate investing helps you gain more time so you can use it towards your family as well as to support your faith. All right, so let's get to the good business found in the good book. It's Habakkuk 2 verses 2 through 3. The Lord answered me, write the vision down, make it clearly on clay tablets, and whoever reads it can run and tell others. It's not yet time for the message to come true, but that time is coming soon. The message will come true. It may seem like a long time, but be patient and wait for it because it will suddenly come. It will not be delayed. Now that you've done the math, write down your goals, make them simple and plain. Your vision, your goals, coupled with your faith, it will come to pass and will not delay. Hey, so if this video resonates with you, I invite you to schedule a free discovery call. No pitch, no pressure, just clarity. All right, so what I want you to do in the description or the link located somewhere in this video is just click on it, opt in, give us your email, your phone number. If you don't like what we have to offer, unsubscribe, no problem. But we have a video, it's about 7 minutes or so, that details more about who we are and how we can help.